Sunday, October 2nd. You're listening to Weather with Enthusiasm. We have several tropical storms that are developing around the world. The one that meteorologists in the United States have their eyes on is one that's headed towards the Caribbean. Lucky for the United States, there is a wind shear that has developed off of the Bermuda High that's going to make it difficult to impossible for the storm to develop into a hurricane. This is good news for us here in the United States. We also have much of the country experiencing beautiful weather with temperatures in the 80s over in the plains. As a low pressure system starts to approach the area, south winds ahead of it will bring warmer temperatures into much of the Midwest and eventually the East Coast as well. A low pressure trough originating from the Arctic will bring a stronger cold front through the Midwest and eventually to the East Coast through the period Wednesday through Saturday on Shabbos. Many locations may see freezing temperatures, especially in the upper Midwest, even perhaps some frost in the lower Midwest, perhaps even in a place like St. Louis, Missouri. For Friday night and Saturday night, some of the northern places may get a hard freeze Thursday night, whereas places like South Bend, Indiana, some of the counties away from the urban heat island of Chicago may get a hard freeze Friday night or Saturday night. Warmer temperatures, however, will return to the region on Sunday as we hit the back flow, the back part of this high pressure system, which will produce south winds and warm conditions. The Pacific Northwest is experiencing unseasonably warm temperatures 15 to 20 degrees above normal. But lucky for them, this time of the year, that actually translates into beautiful weather for the most part. For example, Seattle, Washington is forecasting record warmth, tying record warmth of 76 degrees this week. Portland, Oregon will be one of the hotter spots with a temperature of 90 degrees without breaking any record. But that's 90 degrees with very little humidity. Some warm conditions expected in California. No humidity though, with temperatures in the mid-90s. We have on one hand heat that is so hot, or we should say the mercury is so high, this would make headlines in any paper, which is occurring in South Africa. But on the other hand, if you look at it from a different angle, you'll see that actually there's a lot of beauty to the situation. Normal high for some of these cities in South Africa, 80 degrees. Current high temperatures in the low hundreds. But the dew points are below zero. That creates an evaporation rate that is so intense that the wet bulb temperature is 60 degrees, which means if your skin is wet, the temperature should feel like 60, which, believe it or not, that would mean that you might not even need air conditioning, at least in theory. The problem is that the sweat evaporates so quickly that it actually, when temperatures are above 95 degrees, any type of a breeze will actually make you feel warmer than what it actually is. But the good news is that in theory, should an air conditioner be broken, there is a way to cool yourself off even without air conditioning. In fact, the wet bulb temperature in those counties where the temperature is 100 degrees is the same as it is here in the Midwest where temperatures are in the 60s. So there's lots of good news, even things which would be making headlines. There is a silver lining amongst all those things. There's plenty of heat, which is not making headlines. And it's very difficult to find any silver lining other than you need air conditioning, such as in the United Arab Emirates. It's just hot, although over there the people are used to it. In South Dakota and North Dakota, thunderstorms may develop with hail this evening, but as the National Weather Service has pointed out, this is a different type of hail than what develops usually in severe thunderstorms. It does not indicate that there actually is a severe thunderstorm. It's just that the freezing level is so low that hail might fall. Much of the wind on the East Coast is actually occurring due to a tight pressure gradient because the hurricane is no longer there. The low pressure has moved well off the sea. Much of the plains again have temperatures in the 80s from north all the way to the south. Down in Texas, winds are from the east, temperatures are in the 80s, and in Nebraska, winds are from the south, pushing temperatures in the low 80s. We do have a hot spot in the world besides South Africa. We have a place that's actually hot and humid besides India and besides the United Arab Emirates or any place on the Persian Gulf. We have a place that's not normally hot. It's in China, 300 miles southwest of Shanghai. Temperatures in the low to mid 90s with relatively high humidity. Normal highs for some of those cities are only in the mid 70s. AccuWeather has released its weather forecast for this upcoming winter, and there's a lot of yesodos, a lot of fundamental principles that a person could learn by reading through the forecast. In regards to accuracy, however, I don't know what to say in regards to that, but some things that we could point out is that this will be the third year in a row of a La Nina year. La Nina is when the water temperatures in a part of the Pacific Ocean are below normal, and it tends to affect weather patterns across the world. Some parts of this country are more predictable than others when it comes to a La Nina. The Midwest is not so predictable. We've had years such as 1999 in the summer of a drought due to La Nina. In the year 2000 in Baltimore, they said that the ups and downs continued, but it was a different type of ups and downs. Many of those places, like Baltimore or St. Louis, experience ups and downs on a daily basis. But during a La Nina year, they said what was happening is there were 3 weeks of bitter cold, followed by 3 weeks of warm, then 3 weeks of cold. So it was a different type of up and down back then. I don't know if it could be applied to the current La Nina this year. Another major variable this year is a hurricane and a volcano that erupted last year. It takes some time for a volcano to have an impact on the world and the weather, but it has a dramatic impact on the weather for up to about 2 years. When volcanoes erupt over land, they generally produce global cooling, sometimes intense global cooling. This one erupted underwater, and climatologists think that it's going to ultimately cause global warming, and its effects will be felt, I guess, most significantly this upcoming winter. But the truth is that doesn't say too much. In the wintertime, warmer temperatures in the upper atmosphere in this area here in the Midwest actually leads to a breaking of the polar vortex, which is that's the cause for the most bitter cold outbreaks that have ever happened. So if they're right on that, the polar vortex has a higher chance of breaking off this year than other years. Forecasters do expect there to be a breaking of the polar vortex during the second half of the winter, and also before winter starts as well, from my understanding. I don't know what it's based upon. There's several other things said, but I don't know what it's based upon, so I can't vouch for it. Computer models indicate that above normal temperatures will return to the desert southwest by the end of the week. And we have a couple of monster storm systems which will be affecting Alaska this week. European computer model sets Alaska up for a very large snowstorm, but the National Weather Service has made no mention of it. European computer model also sets up the country Nepal, just to the northeast of India, as getting a massive snowstorm, but I have no way of verifying that with other forecasters. The current storm system, a powerhouse in the Bering Sea, moving into Alaska, originated from the remnants of a typhoon. That's the second time in about 3 weeks we've had such a thing in Alaska, where the typhoon or hurricane converted over to a landstorm. If it crosses the appropriate part of the Bering Sea, there's a theory that says that the Midwest could expect a storm of similar intensity exactly 21 days later, taking the exact same track. I don't know if the same rule applies if the way the storm originated was from the remnants of a hurricane. The second storm system is actually a weaker one that will be trailing behind the first, but the third, I think, is a stronger one. Alaskan meteorologists say that from the end of the week onward, there really is no consistency between the computer models. But they are expecting a couple of very nice fall days in the Anchorage area, in that region, this week. The Pacific Northwest has very warm temperatures, as we mentioned before. That's due to another heat dome that developed due to the jet stream pushing up north. The jet stream pushes up north, that's a bulge in the jet stream that's going to be responsible for the Arctic trough. A dip in the jet stream coming all the way from the Arctic moves into the Midwest and then the East Coast later in the week. The cold temperatures will be felt in the Midwest, but probably not the East Coast, but possibly New England. It's not clear whether the bump in the jet stream, the bulge in the jet stream, is a response to the dip from the Arctic, or if the dip in the Arctic is happening because of the bulge in the jet stream, or a combination of the two. We did cover a large part of the weather here in the United States and other countries as well. And again, the good news for people out east is that there probably will not be any hurricane development for the next few weeks. There is a powerhouse hurricane, however, that is moving into Mexico within the next couple of days, but possible weakening is expected. Where that thing will track after that is not clear at this time.